Hello and welcome to another episode of The Near Fall right here on WFRV Plus. I'm your host, Devin Williams. It's a solo show today. Nobody here. No Nick. No Ben. Just me. If sound a little weather, I apologize. A little stuffed up. Getting that time of year where, colder seasons, you got to break out the cough medicine. But little episode today, we will highlight last night's AW Blood and Guts, which was, I would say, of a really good TV show. Let alone probably would have been a great pay per view show by itself. Uh, Only 3 matches on the card. You had some extracurriculars involved, which kind of filled out the 2.5 hour show. But AEW, I mean, one of the better on TV dynamites that I've seen in a while. Suckered me in. I was really looking forward for the women's Blood and Guts match, which kicked off the show, and boy, did they deliver! I think within like 9 minutes, Sky Blue was busted open. One of the biggest takeaways that I've seen on social media is not long after she was busted open and gushing blood. She looked at the camera or looked at somebody and said, "This is my match." And she has, I believe, gone on record and said that she really enjoys some of these more hardcore matches. But delivered. I was all for it for the match. Some really good spots. Mercedes not heavily involved. I think had a couple of spots where she displayed all of her 12 belts or 10 belts that she had, and gave, I think, one to each of her teammates, and used on the opponent. So that was kind of a cool little spot. Additionally, Harley Cameron had the little puppet, and Mercedes took it off, but Harley had brass knuckles underneath and used them to attack Monet. And then I think her last spot of the night was like a Samoan drop from Statlander, kind of like off the top rope through a table, but it was like outside. I think it might just been on the steps, or like kind of by at the cage. A solid, I would just say, a very solid TV match. Not everybody's cup of tea, these blood and gut matches, for sure. Blood and guts, I should say. But I mean, the first ever women's one I thought delivered leaps and bounds. Statlander she's the AEW Women's Champion involved in the match. You have Mercedes Monet, the TBS Champion, the second biggest women's title. Any of all of these tag teams that are involved in the match are going to be the inaugural women's tag team champions. My MVPs of the match, I would say, were Sky Blue. I think just again came off like a monster. Megan Bain, same thing. I mean, she threw like a chair at JB Hater, and that was a spot, and it looked like it hurt. I mean, just so much going on in the match. Well done. They went an hour, which was kind of crazy. I mean, you think about, you have a 2.5 hour show, almost over a third of it is just one match, and it's a women match, which, there's been some critiques in AW in the past for them not featuring women. I mean, they got more time, I believe, than the men did. But I really like where this is going. Kind of furthered some Statlander Monet stuff for their feud for the world title. You had tag team involves. You had Mina and Tony. The match ended, I should say, by Tony Storm agreeing to submit, tap out, because Marina Shafir and Megan Bain were just beating on Mina Shirakawa, and that Tony did not want to hear it or see it anymore. So she said, "That's it. I've seen enough," and ended the match. Yeah, I mean, again, Mina and Tony Storm in the tag team tournament. Julia Hart, Sky Blue in the tag team tournament. Willow and Harley in the tag team tournament. I believe Megan Bain and Marina Shafir did advance, so they're still in the tournament. You had, I mean, all you had all the people involved, and it was just, I think, a really good way to showcase the women in the first ever Blood and Guts match, as well as advance some storylines. But moving on, we had Hangman Adam Page going against Powerhouse. Oop, that's again, Nick's not here. I don't know why I'm bringing Nick in. Hangman Adam Page in a Falls Count Anywhere match against Powerhouse Hobbs. Again, for a middle match, I mean, you had Blood and Guts, World Championship match. I believe it was World Championship match, Falls Count Anywhere between Powerhouse Hobbs and Hangman, and then the men's Blood and Guts. I mean, those are 3 really good matches. I think in between there, you had some Young Bucks and Don Callis stuff going on. But the big thing with Hangman, Falls Count Anywhere, didn't really go too far out of the like arena per se. They obviously went in the ring a little bit, outside the ring, kind of like in the stands a little bit. Nothing too crazy on that end. So the big thing that I would say with Hangman is Falls Count Anywhere. Some really cool spots with Powerhouse. I mean, Powerhouse Hobbs is a solid wrestler. You know, brings a unique build, a unique skill set to the table, and I think they leverage that well enough. But the big thing was after the match, Samoa Joe and uh, Shibata came out and kind of attacked Hangman. Hook and Eddie Kingston kind of came out to make the save. But the big thing was Hangman looked at Samoa Joe, kind of had the mic in his hands, and said, "You wanted me inside the cage? You got it." At Full Gear, which I believe is next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday, we will have a steel cage match for the World Championship title. So interesting. I don't know how many steel cage matches Samoa Joe has been involved in, but I'm excited to see that one. Um, that was a fine match. And then the men's. I mean, the men's. I did it again. Brought Nick on. The men's Blood and Guts match. Darby Allin came out first. Wheeler came out first for the Death Riders. Head to head, solid. I mean, people just kind of started to come out, obviously out and out. At one point, though, they did go back to the locker room, and Eddie Kingston, Mark Briscoe was knocked out, and he was not able to, quote unquote, be cleared to compete. I thought maybe they were going to bring somebody in. I actually did text Nick, my co-host, as well as Ben, our frequent guest, saying, I wonder if Adam Cole comes out, because you obviously have his ties to the Paragon / Undisputed Era. Or is it Bryan Danielson? Obviously, he has his ties to the Death Riders. At commentary, I thought maybe for the fifth person, they would have played somebody's music and they would have came out. But no, Mark Briscoe did end up coming out at the end. Key highlights for the spots. Darby Allin went through a flaming table, was, I believe, legitimately on fire for a few seconds. Kyle O'Reilly gave the middle finger to Mox. Kyle O'Reilly, by the way, this is how the match ended. Tapped out Jon Moxley. I mean, you want to talk about a huge win. I'm talking about the main event for one of AEW's biggest TV shows of the year. Tapping out their, fourth biggest star? I mean, that is just, all kudos to Kyle O'Reilly. I love that for him. Cut a promo kind of after the match post. AEW wasn't during the match or anything, but just on those posts on social media saying how, excuse me, his neck was broken and he, excuse me, fought through it, came back to his daughter and like how like this Jon Moxley, this is who I am, so on and so forth. But a very interesting, I would say. And as Moxley again taps out, is this going to play into his storyline? Is he going to become more and more desperate? Is there a Death Riders breakup? I feel like we've been kind of teasing that for a while, and yet here we are. Curious, though, to see if they do break up, what's going to happen on Collision or the next Dynamite. We'll have to see. The good guys did end up winning. Like I said, Kyle O'Reilly tapped out Moxley. Some other cool spots where Orange Cassidy put his hands in his pockets. And then, really cleverly, Claudio kind of bared him from behind so he couldn't really move his arms. And Jon Moxley stapled his hands. I don't think it was like a huge staple, but stapled his hands into his pockets so he couldn't really get his hands out of the pockets. But ended up essentially ripping his hands out of his pockets, even though they were quote unquote stapled there. Nothing too, insanely gory. There was a fork involved that was like a lot of scraping on the back of some of the wrestlers. I think Mark Briscoe took like a legit headshot with the chair, so that was something that I don't know if that was planned. But the big one I would say was Mox going through a flaming table. And like I think legitimately kind of caught on fire. I think my wife even looked after me as she kind of just keep an eye on the background and said, "Is that guy on fire?" And yes, he was for a brief second or two. But that was the men's. I think solid. I kind of actually like the women's one a little bit more. But the men's was a solid solid way to close Blood and Guts and the show. Additionally, just kind of quick talking on, I mentioned the Young Bucks and Don Callis family. They tease or Kenny Omega is coming back next Wednesday for his return to Dynamite. Curious to see if there's any turning. It's set up to be Jurassic Express and Omega going against the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander from the Don Callis family. So that is kind of it for AEW Dynamite. We will take a quick break. When we come back, we will have some SmackDown stuff going on, as well as just kind of my thoughts on the John Cena, where we're at with him. And I know me and Nick touched on it Tuesday, but who can we expect, or who would we like to see face him in the tournament that they're doing? But as additionally, just for his Intercontinental title, if I could talk correctly. So stay with us right here at WFRV Plus. We'll be right back after these breaks. Hello and welcome back to the Near Fall. I am your host. Watch your name pop up, Devin Williams. Again, just a solo show today. No Nick, no Ben, just me. We just got done talking about AEW Dynamite and the Blood and Guts show. Leading into Full Gear, again, I'm excited to see what next Dynamite has as they build towards one of their bigger pay-per-views of the year. But it's John Cena time. Talk of the town, John Cena. Who is he going to face for his last match? Is he going to win his last match? Who won't he face? Stuff like that. So, first one I really was kind of hoping to see that he would face would be Obafemi, but he he did return at the end of NXT this past Tuesday. So I think he's going to be more going against Ricky Saints. I don't think he'll be doing the John Cena tournament, as there's only a few more empty spots left. So, but he still could be on that card, because John Cena did say there's going to be some, past and present, or some future looking ahead, some on the undercard that can be showcased and highlighted. So I won't be surprised if Obafemi and Ricky Saints were on that for the NXT title. I think that's a good way to get some people exposed to NXT outside of the normal view. And obviously John Cena's last match is going to have no shortage of eyeballs on it. So I think that's a really good spot to have. And Obafemi, he came back and he looked insane. I'm excited for him. You're talking about the main roster. Him and Braun Breaker, him and Bronson Reed, him and John Cena, obviously. Cody Rhodes. I think there's him and Roman Reigns. You're looking at some really good kind of matches that you can have with Obafemi, and just intrigue on the two names alone. So, but that was kind of, since me and Nick talked last, I don't think Obafemi will be involved in John Cena's last tournament. The match, one of the tournament's matches tomorrow for on SmackDown is Jey Uso and The Miz. I would assume Jey wins. Yeah, I would assume Jey wins. Obviously, Miz and Cena have they main event at WrestleMania together, so The Miz has some history with John Cena. Would be interesting to see if he wins. I would be shocked, but one of the ones to keep an eye on. Some other, like I said, they just haven't announced some of these names that I would like to see. I think Matt Cardona would be one, and me and Nick touched on it a little bit. But Zack Ryder, per se, it's been, him and John Cena have a little bit of history. Matt Cardona / Zack Ryder has been extremely popular on the indies. So, and they talked about how they're gonna make people from outside of the company. I'm trying to think if there would be anybody in AAA. I don't think Vikingo would be interesting. I don't think he would be the one to fight Cena at the end. I wonder if they would do somebody like Alberto Del Rio, extremely over in Mexico. Not sure if he is extremely over here in the States due to some of his allegations, but have some history again with John Cena. Extremely popular in certain parts of the world. Could be an interesting fit for John Cena as his last match. Or maybe not his last match. He probably wouldn't win the full thing, but being one of the unknown or not yet announced names. I also think you're looking at Joe Hendry from people from TNA would be one. I think AJ Styles would have been a really cool one to win the tournament and then go against John Cena for his last match. But I wonder if John Cena wants to put somebody young over, which is why I believe Obafemi would have been a really good choice. Could it be somebody like Trick Williams? I'm trying to think of like NXT names who could be on the show. Trick Williams, obviously very popular, and has had experience in relatively bigger matches. NXT World Champion, TNA World Champion, so just not a nobody to go out there against. But whoever he faces, the big question: does John Cena win, or does he go out on his back? Like a lot of wrestlers say that that's the way to go. You look at Undertaker, lost to Roman Reigns, out on his back. You look at um, Triple H, or not Triple H, HBK lost to Undertaker in the retirement versus streak match, or career versus streak match. Went out on his back. I wonder if I would lean. I think that's the way John Cena is going to go, which means that the winner of this tournament has to be somebody with a little bit of credibility. So, it can't just be a pure known. Maybe it will. I mean, who knows? Is I mean, if it's Sheamus, John Cena, I don't think I think we'll know who's going to win based on who the opponent is, which is kind of a cop out, but at the same time, an interesting one to say the least. He is the Intercontinental Champion, as we touched on Tuesday with me and Nick. I would love the open challenge for this. I think this is a great way to expose NXT wrestlers to the main audience. I think Obafemi would have been, or this is where I think I would have had Obafemi debut, win, maybe not right away, have him defend against some, Joe Hendry or people who aren't in the tournament but deserve to be highlighted, and then have Obafemi come out and have him wrestle. My guess is Brock Lesnar is who John Cena will wrestle in his last match, and Brock Lesnar will win said last match. Nick, my co-host, what do you got to say on this one, Nick? Ooh, just kidding. I'm stealing this one from Ryan. But Nick thinks that this won't be his last match. Or not this one specifically, but it won't be Cena's last match in WWE. That he will continue to wrestle every now and then, kind of sporadically, and show up and go from there. So that's kind of like my quick John Cena thoughts, if I could say that correctly 5 times fast. Moving on, we have some SmackDown stuff this week, not this weekend, tomorrow on Friday. So, as I touched on, obviously you have Jey Uso and The Miz in the... Does it actually have a name, the John Cena one? I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to quick see. Let me do a quick search to see if there is any names. Oh, yes, the Last Time Is Now tournament. That's the name. Aside from Jey Uso and The Miz battling in that tournament, LA Knight is also going to be in the tournament, and this is the first mystery opponent. Wonder who it will be. Take a little look. I wonder if there's any betting odds on who's the winning. I'll take a look at that. In between the breaks, I'll take a look and see if there's any betting odds on that. But additionally, not spoiled, but advertised, BFAB will go against Jade Cargill. I wonder if we will see who the next opponent for Jade Cargill is following her win over Tiffany Stratton. Pretty much a squash over Tiffany Stratton at, I believe that was Saturday Night Main Event. Or was that... Yeah, I believe that was Saturday night. Might be eluding me, but regardless, Jade Cargill's your champion. She's going to clash with BFAB. We will see if there's a setup challenger for her belt. So we'll take one more quick break, right here on WFRV Plus, and then when we come back, I'll go see if there's any betting odds on that, and talk a little bit of some nostalgia on the wrestling side. So stay with us. We'll be right back after these quick breaks. Hello and welcome back to the Near Fall right here on WFRP Plus. I am your host, show the name, Devin Willems. Again, just a solo show today, but I did find betting odds on who Cena's last opponent will be. I'm gonna read these off. Some of these are kind of crazy, but maybe it'll happen. Gunther is the odds-on favorite, according to Oddspedia.com. But Gunther is listed as a favorite. Edge is second. Not even with AEW, or not even with WWE right now. Copeland is still, to my best of my knowledge, is still employed by AEW. The next favorite is Randy Orton. And then it starts to get into some bigger odds like Roman Reigns, Solo, Drew, LA Knight, Sheamus, Jey Uso, Rusev, The Miz, Javon Evans, and then Joe Hendry. Based on just looking at that, not a whole lot of like young guys. Gunther, Edge, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa. I mean, he's relatively young. Drew McIntyre, LA Knight. People have been around in WWE for a bit. So, kind of interesting. Gunther's the odds-on favorite. I could see it. I'm surprised Brock Lesnar's not on there. Maybe we'll know more on who the other opponents who have not been announced are for the upcoming The Last Time Is Now tournament. I believe that's what it's called. Or I can't believe I forgot from 5 minutes ago. But no, that's it. All right. Moving on from John Cena. We spent too much time on him. I spent too much time on him. Just going over a little bit of nostalgia here. I kind of got just me here. The top wrestling, nostalgia-wise, finishing moves. So that's been one that has been not even voted on, but just one of the more things that you remember as a kid or as an adult. What is this person's finishing move? I mean, number one, come on, this has to be Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Glass Shatter, Stone Cold Stunner. Great name, great move, can hit it out anywhere, on anyone. Always got the crowd going wild. So that is my favorite of all time is the Stone Cold Stunner. For some reason, people like the Sweet Chin music. Me, not a huge fan of it. You can hit it out anywhere. It's kind of like the RKO, where you can hit it anywhere. I'm not a huge RKO fan either, spoiler. But Stone Cold Steve Austin, number one. Number two, for me, I like Undertaker's Tombstone. You had so many versions of it. The elevator one, just kind of like the regular one per se. But you knew the match was over. Anytime he hit the Tombstone, you thought that was it. And sometimes it wasn't. But those are, I think, top two for me personally. I'm looking at some of I'm just kind of Googling the internet here and see what else comes up. That one makes sense. One of, like I said, the more popular ones voted on is Shawn Michaels' Sweet Chin music. Not for me. Can hit it out anywhere. Looks good. I think it's just overused today. Wasn't used as much previously when when HBK was doing it, but still a solid one. I think Jeff Hardy's Swanton Bomb is pretty synonymous with like my age. Growing up, he was always very popular, and Swanton Bomb was always one of the most recreated moves in trampolines, backyards, at homes, etc., etc. Not a huge fan of like the Rock's move. RVD's 5-star Frog Splash, very popular. Similar vein of Jeff Hardy's Swanton Bomb. Like Chris Jericho's Wall of Jericho. Quick little side story. It didn't take too long to realize that WWE was scripted per se. Not all the moves actually landed or connected or didn't really hurt. But a buddy of mine put me in the Walls of Jericho, and I totally thought it wasn't going to hurt, and boy, does that actually hurt. So, not only is it effective, actually works. So, Walls of Jericho is relatively popular. I think there's one that changed the game. Still probably will be in my top 5, but Rey Mysterio 619. I remember the first time he did this. First time I saw it. Not the first time he did it, but the first time I saw it, I was like, is that even a thing? Is that possible? Can people do that? I was like looking around the room. I mean, one of aesthetically pleasing. You can believe yourself, kicking somebody in the face, as the move got on and maybe he got a little bit slower in age, it was a little bit more obvious that it wasn't super high impact, but just a really cool move, really cool wrestler. And I kind of had the whole package, look cool, was cool, could hit it in certain spots, uh, and was just unique, really, really unique. Let's see if there's any others that kind of pop up top of my head. I thought the Codebreaker was pretty cool. Another Chris Jericho one. Uh, some of the spears like Edge and Goldberg, nothing too crazy. Um, Sister Abigail from Bray Wyatt, nothing insane. I'll go Kurt Angle. I'll kind of fall on the last little bit of the top wrestling finishers. Kurt Angle's, pick your choice. Angle slam or ankle lock. Whatever one you want. Um, Kurt Angle's a really good wrestler. Not only amateur wise, but also professional wise. Had the whole package, could talk, could wrestle. And his finishers back that up too. You felt like if he locked the ankle lock in, and if he kind of like sunk his hips down and locked and crisscrossed his legs, like, oh, it's over. He's not going anywhere. But you really like Kurt Angle's just moveset in general. Like I said, not a fan of the spears. We touched on some of the frog splash. Eddie Guerrero probably should be mentioned in there. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I'm kind of just scrolling through some of this. Current today, though, favorite finisher wise, I really like Will Ospreay. I mean, just anything he does, but like the Hidden Blade, not a huge fan of, but I really liked his Stormbreaker. That's a pretty cool move. Omega's One Winged Angel. I mean, just really cool. When I first saw that from New Japan, I was like, wow, that's a really cool finisher, and boy, it was. And now he still does it today, and in AEW, and it's also super protected. Not a lot of people kicked out of it. So, all right, I think that'll do it for today's episode. A lot of Devin talking today, as it was just a solo show. But thank you for watching right here on WFRV Plus. Till the next time, keep your shoulders off the mat. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.